actually have the worst fucking chairs for this. You know that, right?
Do you want one of the?
Do you want the
wooden
hard chairs? I want one of the wooden chairs.
Okay.
I'm done with this roly bullshit.
I'm staying with this one. I like this one. I feel good on it.
I'm Brody. I love being mobile.
This is. Blair's here now. Hi.
Hey,
Hi.
how's it going?
Hi, Zach.
I'm not saying hi.
Okay.
My name is Blair.
My name is Brody.
All right, So I've just bought the 400 sleeves of DVDs. I made the heart-wrenching decision to take some of my DVDs out of the cases and put them in sleeves.
Welcome to the club.
And
It's not a very exciting club.
I got the idea from you. I am still leaving a lot of the stuff
Oh, I know.
in display because I'm a narcissist.
Yes, you
But also, I realized that it's not very impressive to have certain, I don't need to show that I have the DVD case to Final Destination 2 or
Shoot 'em up.
Or
Do you
the-
have Shoot 'em up?
I have it
I don't
framed.
have shoot 'em up.
Have you seen Shoot 'em up? Shoot 'em up.
I saw it a long time. You know how I keep telling you about my Saturday night, my Friday night movies that are I would watch. I'd get 2 movies. I would watch one, and then after I finished that one, I would watch the next one, and it would probably start at 1 o'clock.
1 in the morning. Yeah.
And I wouldn't remember it very well.
Yeah.
Shoot 'em up was one of my late
What,
nights.
your 1 in the morning ones?
Yeah. So I don't remember it very well. I remember Clive Owen is supposed to be Bugs Bunny, and
Basically, yeah. They even make him eat carrots.
And he
shoots people while having sex, which I don't think Bugs Bunny ever did.
The fuck is this movie?
You've never seen Shoot 'em Up?
No.
Oh, Paul Giamatti's the villain in it. Oh, he's so fucking
supposed
good.
to be Elmer
I love
Fudd.
it. Yep.
It's very
hilarious.
subtle. It's very subtle.
It's actually awesome.
It's not
such
subtle at all.
It's such a fun
It's
movie.
just-
Okay.
I mean, you know me.
Yeah.
We'll
Over the top action.
I was
Hell yeah.
I was
So silly.
I was going through my sleeves though, or the stuff I was putting in my sleeves, and it made me realize as I'm putting Rob Zombie's first his Halloween remake in it,
Yeah.
I'm like, I have watched this movie way too many times.
Rob Zombies?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did back in the day when I was a teenager who didn't really know, and
Yeah, I
can't even say I didn't know any better. I was actually just yeah, this is a movie of kind of what I would want. There's a slasher in it or something. And then since then, my tastes in horror films have kind of changed quite a bit. I mean, I was always afraid of horror films when I was younger. I remember being really young, and every time Jurassic Park was on during the Dilophosaur parts with the guy Wayne Knight, I would actually walk out of the room, wait till it was done, and then walk back into the room.
Really? That was the scariest part for you?
Yeah, it was.
The scene in Jurassic Park that always got me was when you see Sam Jackson's arm. Is it his arm?
Yeah,
that
it's his arm.
falls off out of the vent or something?
And then the raptor face comes out.
Yeah, that was always the scariest part of that movie for me.
Yeah, it's...
Were you scared of Jurassic Park, Zach?
I was scared of a lot of things.
Well, I mean, so was I.
Jurassic Park was... I had the doubleheader of not being into dinosaurs as a kid and also
Jesus.
hating horror. So yeah, Jurassic Park was just a nightmare for me.
You can't. I wouldn't say Jurassic Park is a horror film, but it's scary.
I mean, as a 7-year-old, you're like,
I mean, it is kind of
It's
scary because
stressful.
as a 7-year-old, you're usually like, dinosaurs are so cool,
Look
but
at
then you
them-
see how terrifying they are in Jurassic Park.
yeah.
I'll call Jurassic Park a horror.
What is it?
Yeah.
How...
Thriller.
It is not a horror movie.
It's
not even
an
a thriller
adventure
movie.
thriller. It's like an adventure movie, isn't it?
Do you know? Have you guys read the book? Have you read
survival
the
horror.
book?
I
Have you
haven't.
guys read the
It's
book?
not a survival
It's a
horror.
survival horror.
The book is so much
Stuck on an island with dinosaurs that want to kill them.
We're not going to argue the semantics of the genre of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, exactly. What is Jurassic Park?
What are we? Are we dinosaurs?
I'm gonna.
So as I was saying about Halloween, the Rob Zombie remake,
Yeah.
it was so I remember being really afraid of Jurassic Park, and then my sister, when she was in her teens, was like, "Oh, we should all watch Jeepers Creepers together."
Oh,
and
fuck.
that was
movie
those
wrecked
peepers.
me.
Yep,
That
same here.
film
It was
fucking wrecked me. I didn't even see it, and it wrecked me.
I was always that kid with the crazy imagination. I saw Gremlins. I saw Gremlins when I was much too young. I think there is not an age.
I don't think there's too young for Gremlins. I just think
Gremlins is always
Gremlins either
terrifying.
messed you up as a kid or it didn't.
Yeah,
like,
it's
that is
true.
it.
Surprisingly, it didn't really do that
Messed
for me.
me
I
up.
thought
Oh, it
I
was
thought Gremlins
so
was just
scary.
cool. I didn't think it was that scary.
So you
And
didn't
this-
imagine them like being like tittering under your bed, just
No,
I
I was
did.
I was spending my time imagining shit like Jeepers Creepers or what was Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street messed me up.
Oh, you know what really got me? This was before I had seen Alien. I watched a 20-second segment of Captain Dallas in the vents.
Oh,
And you know which segment
Yeah.
it is.
yes, yep.
And just seeing that, I wouldn't go in my basement for 2 weeks. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that thing is. I don't want to know what that thing is. And now that movie is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. Oh my god, I love it.
It was like,
I never watched it as a kid because I was like, no, this is a scary movie. I don't want anything to do with it. And then when the first AVP came out, I saw that.
We have the exact same
I
story
don't.
there.
Yeah, I don't remember why I even saw it. I was like, oh, this looks like a cool movie. I don't know. And then I think I saw it because I was into Predator more than
Yeah.
Alien. I saw that and I was like, that was a bad movie, guys. That
I
was a bad
liked it,
movie.
and I decided
then-
to watch the other ones.
So here's the thing. I saw that, thought it was a bad movie. I'm like, all the other Alien movies must be just as bad. So I never watched them. I don't think I saw Alien or Aliens until like a year or two ago when you made me watch them and you bought me the first one. 'cause
I
it was
bought
10
you the
bucks.
first one because it was, yeah.
And now it's one of my favorite movies.
It's great because I found, the more I think about it, and I spend way too much time thinking about horror, is the fact that you kind of need training wheels. I find
Yeah.
it's like,
You
which
really
is
have
why
to-
I kind of had to watch Rob Zombie's Halloween. Like it's not very scary. It's not
No.
scary. It's this big like it's kind of scary in the fact that it's got like ultra violence and
a
shocks.
unstoppable force.
Yeah, and jump scares and
Yeah.
stuff. Whereas like had I watched John Carpenter's original Halloween and Halloween 2, I probably would have been much more terrified than if I'd seen just the remake, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so you kind of need the training wheels. You kind of got to be
You really
like,
need
You
to
gotta
ease
ease into it.
into horror films,
Yeah.
yeah. Which it took me. I'm still easing into them.
So here's just how bad I was at easing into them. Back to Gremlins. Gremlins messed me up because I had pet mice growing up.
oh, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
And this is around the same time where cannibalism was a thing in my life. And you guys know about
we
how
all
horrified
know
I
about
am
his story about
of
Red
cannibals
Dragon.
and how I read Red
Oh yeah.
Dragon.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I watched Gremlins and was like, holy shit, we cannot give the mice water after midnight. We cannot feed
No,
them.
you can't.
No, we can't feed them after midnight, and we cannot get them wet. So I made sure, like, I was like always watching their little like squirt water bottle thing. I was like, if that thing drips on them, we're all dead. We're all dead. And this is around the time where mice, if like, they'll eat their babies sometimes. So that we had a boy and a girl mouse.
Did you say around the time when mice will eat their babies?
Yeah,
I think mice will always eat their babies.
It's
It's around
yeah.
the time you learn.
Yeah.
I learned that. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
I didn't complete the thought. So I had a boy and a girl mouse. They had babies, and then they started eating some. So I had seen a frog eat another frog.
Yeah.
I had red dragon, and now my pet mice were eating their young. And then I watched Gremlins, and I'm like, these cannibalistic mice are going to multiply, turn into mutants, and murder me dead. And that, I think, is why I just
That's
horror.
actually
No.
Or no.
That's actually almost as if you were starting to see like signs of the apocalypse. A frog eating another frog.
Yeah.
You read a Thomas Harris novel and were just like freaked out by all of that, and then mice started eating each other.
I found the answer to something I didn't understand, and it affected me in some way.
Man, I think you guys got off easy being exposed to horror at a young age. I had
It was Gremlins.
Exactly. That's easy. I had both my sisters and some babysitters. This is like multiple babysitters making me watch Nightmare on Elm Street. Not Halloween, thankfully. Child's Play. I thought Chucky was one of the scariest things.
Child-
Chucky
I have
is-
I have a friend
We're
who
not-
just
It. Fucking It.
it never got me. It
I know. hold on. I know how much you want to. I don't know how much you want to talk about it. Zach's terrified of clowns still to this day.
I want to talk about that because I'm very curious about fears of clowns.
I had all these people, and like, oh, they would terrorize me too. If my sisters were babysitting me, they would put me to bed. And then there was this one story where they sent one of their friends to go hide in my closet before they put me to bed. And then they put me to bed. And the dude waited like 20 minutes. So I was like probably almost asleep. For him to crawl out of my closet and then fucking come up and like grab onto my ankles. Oh my God. I'm like getting scared. Just fucking talking about it.
I would have gone the other way. I wouldn't have crawled. I would have like slowly opened the door and approached.
Yeah.
Very
And
meticulous.
not even touch them. Just
No,
approach.
it was, oh God. So it took me a long time. A really, really long time to warm up to horror. And then, oh my God. And then the fucking Ring came out and The Grudge. And now I'm just scared of little girls.
That weird where we just got Western horror just got like really Japanese
Just
for a
got,
bit there.
yeah.
So I didn't see The Ring in theaters, but I saw The Ring 2 in theaters, which was hilarious. I was in middle school and it was like, oh, let's do the girl boy thing where like I wasn't involved, but my friends were like, we're gonna impress girls and we're gonna go to this movie. So it wasn't terrifying at all. But there's the one sequence where you guys probably haven't seen it because I'm guessing.
No.
So in The Ring 2, there's a sequence with these CGI deers just attacking a car.
Amazing.
And it is the funniest thing. Like the whole theater was just like, oh, this is terrifying. And I was dying of laughter. I was the only voice. It was just laughter of, oh my God, what is this? This is hilarious. And I think that was like my first time having seen like an actual horror movie in theaters. And I've been thinking about it a lot this week. I really like watching horror movies in theaters and I don't do it enough. I saw Paranormal Activity in theaters when it came out, the first one, and it actually tricked me into thinking that it was a much better film than it was because everyone was reacting to it.
So into it.
I saw Unfriended was incredible.
Oh my God, I remember seeing
I told
a
you
trailer
this.
for that one.
Did I tell you this story?
I think so. Real quick, I have this really weird obsession with watching trailers for horror films.
Yeah.
Because
it's
I
just the
don't
right
actually,
amount of spook.
Yeah, I don't actually want to see the films, but I want to see, like, I kind of want to be spooked. I don't know. I'm fucking...
No, it's
some weird psyche
It's that
thing.
obsession with fear. It's like I'm afraid of sharks, and
So you
so
love
I
Jaws.
know so much about sharks.
Yeah.
I know so much about sharks. I watch Jaws at least once a year.
Yeah.
Also because it's an incredible film. But
I think it's my curiosity more than anything.
It is.
It's like I just need to know.
so I watched Unfriended in
yeah.
theaters.
Yep.
And Unfriended by no means is an innovative horror film. I think it's really cool that what they did is they ran the entire film in 90 minutes in the same house. It's all
Through webcam, right?
Yeah, it's all like essentially one take. There's some
Okay.
floofing around.
Creative cuts.
Yeah, there's
in
some
quotations.
Yeah, but the best part about it was there were the group of 14-year-old girls in the seats behind me who had never done it came off like their first horror movie, and I was just so amped up because they were so amped up. Like stuff that was completely like boring and tired and overused to me was the craziest twist to them.
Yeah.
And just having that sort of enthusiasm, like, oh, what? Like, cause it's all in typing, right? So so when it's like a setup for, but you'll die first sort of thing, like there's just that typing thing and they're just waiting. And then, but you'll die first thing comes up, and I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And they're like, what? No! And it's the greatest experience.
Don't you kind of miss watching movies with that amount of innocence?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I dissect movies way too much instead of.
That's why I don't read as much as I used to.
Well, it's also why like I watch horror films because it does get me wrapped up. For the most part, should get me wrapped up in the moment.
Yeah.
If it's a really good one, it's really hard to find really good ones.
Yeah.
One of the few ones that was like the most terrifying experience I've had in a theater was during TIFF. I watched The Witch,
Nice.
which is
Yeah.
out now. It's really incredible. In my opinion,
A lot of people have been heralding it as like one of the best horror films in such a
it's
long
such
time.
a long. So when I was at TIFF, it
Like
was
better
like
than the Babadook. Babadook.
Babadook. Yeah,
Babadook.
which yeah,
Which
I'll
we can
talk about that in
too.
a second
Yeah.
too. The and I also want to talk about It Follows.
Yeah. Oh,
But-
yeah.
But yeah, contemporary horror is really interesting to me right now. But The Witch is incredible because it's all in period English. It's in it's during a time when settlers are moved to the New World and are getting in settlements, and this family is way too devout for their settlement, so they're exiled, and so they are sent to, or they're sent away, and they decide to build a house by a forest.
It's
Try-
they're
try-
settling in America, right?
Try to word this in a way that's pretty spoiler free.
Oh,
yeah.
this happens within the first 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then what happens after the first 5 minutes, I'm not going to get into, but it's essentially like, oh, by the way, yeah, this is the kind of setup we got. It's
Yeah.
the most disturbing film. The guy who was introducing it was like, yeah, like they're the suspense in this movie is something even beyond The Shining. And immediately me having like watched as many horror films, I was like, oh yeah, right. Like everyone says that.
Yeah.
The entire theater was so tense during this film. And it's great because it's sectioned that like a lot of the bad, it's a witch movie. So a lot of the bad stuff happens at night.
The
And-
witching hour.
And there are moments where you're like, oh God, they're gonna cut to daytime, and we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. It's gonna be fine. They're gonna cut to daytime. They're gonna figure something out. They're gonna get out of there.
Doesn't happen, does it?
And there's moments where it's like, all right, cut, and you're like, it's still nighttime. No, this cannot happen. What's the next thing that can happen out of it? I don't know. Like the imagery is incredible. It's just the pace is so great. It's about it. The acting is so good. It's a great horror film. It's a great film. It's and it's a lot about building off of. Never before have I seen. I can't think of a single movie where I've seen the setup being, oh, by the way, these people are so like crazy devout that it's oppressive and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's interesting.
By the end of the second act, you're like, God has to save them. Like God has to save. You're like praying with them. You're just going, this is madness. It's and it's I cannot recommend it.
You're pushed to their
more.
extreme.
Do you think filmmakers are going to follow down the path that The Witch has set for them? Because let's be real right now. The past like 15, 20 years of horror films has been like an obsession with poltergeists, spirits, and rebooting slasher flicks.
Well, like,
or rebooting the Poltergeist.
exactly.
The most recent
Exactly.
horror movie I've seen, and this is a while ago, but it was like the big horror movie for like it was supposed to be the big one in a long time was The Conjuring, and that was
And that's just another ghost film.
it was pretty dull.
It's
Though The Conjuring does do one thing that I really like, and
actually I think I saw The Conjuring. It was scary.
The sheet onto the ghost was really cool, and then
James
like
yeah,
James
that
Wan's
was the
very
only
good
cool
for
scary
this.
part.
Is my rule is if you're going to do a haunted house film, establish the geography and then you can play with it. And James Wan's really
And they
good at
did.
that.
Yeah.
He's
But yeah, do you think horror is going to go in a different direction following the success of The Witch?
I think if it were to, there's a lot of energy that needs to be put into, because the greatest part about The Witch is how well the director Eggers has researched it. And I've been reading articles about it, and people are like, oh, well, you've read so much into this, like do you know all the things that have you found transgressions, or have you made mistakes where you're like, oh, I thought I researched that, but I didn't. And he goes, no, I knew all the mistakes I had made. I had to make them because I'm telling a story.
Right.
So he's so well researched into it, and all of the dialogue comes from like period English because he read so many letters.
Yeah.
He read letters and history books and diaries, and he got the tone down. And that's another great thing about this movie, is that they're speaking technically another form of English, but because they're speaking another form of English, you're so drawn into it. It's not like,
It makes you
oh, that
focus on
man's
what they're
speaking
saying and what's
modern
going on.
English. It's you're like, oh, I'm so within their time period right now because I'm hearing them speak within their time period. Where it's like
It helps
watch,
draw you in.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Instead of you know, you want to talk about It Follows and what didn't draw you in?
Can I just talk about a really quick, cool storytelling like dynamic that's in The Witch?
Yeah.
And it's just like it's a really Protestant family, right? It's settlers of America.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
I think
it's Protestant faith. That was the biggest one. That was what everyone was. So they're faced with literally the reason they're so staunch, their biggest fear. They're faced with the occult. They're faced with literally the devil's power being embodied by someone who is of the opposite faith of them.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. It's just like you're faced with two extremes, and as the audience you're carried along to the point where you're so afraid of the other extreme that you choose their extreme.
Oh yeah, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. I can't recommend it more. If people are interested. It is a terrifying movie. It is something I cannot remember the last time I was that scared watching it, watching a film.
So Zach, we can't watch it.
Yeah, I know, but it sounds so good, and I like good storytelling above everything. So I feel like I need to just.
I think within the right setting.
Bro, you want to watch it together?
No.
I
Want to watch it together in the middle of noon with like all the windows open and pillows to hide in?
No, because
Blair, wanna watch it with me?
It will
I
be
will watch it
nighttime
with you.
eventually.
I'll watch it again.
It
I'm
will be
probably
nighttime
gonna buy it.
eventually,
Yeah,
Zach.
when you buy it, let me know, and I'll watch.
Okay.
I'll come over and we'll watch it.
Yeah, and it's
won't.
well, it's one of those things where you're able to, you know, when you have certain movies where you're able to make the divide. Oh, I'm not them, sort of thing. Like I was never worried about like the events of Poltergeist happening to me because I don't have
Your
a
house,
connection.
Your house
I
wasn't
don't-
built on an Indian burial
I
ground?
don't live in the suburbs. I don't have a creepy young sister who speaks to televisions. I've got an older sister, but she doesn't speak to televisions. But
I want to jump back to Jeepers Creepers really quick. I was very terrified of it only because it happened in a setting that I lived in.
oh, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, I was
Yep.
surrounded by farms, and
Yep.
it was about
Messed me up too.
I don't know what. I don't even know what it was. Was it a demon that was a
It-
scarecrow? Was it
it was
actually
a
a
It
scarecrow?
was just like crazy
It is-
demon.
or did
yeah.
it just like
Demon.
acted as a scarecrow at one point in the
Yeah.
film? I just remember
Yeah.
seeing it.
They
in a
just see him in the
cornfield.
distance, I think, and he's fucking with him. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, that's one of the reasons it scared
What
me
was
so
Jeepers
much.
Creepers dynamic? Did he like kill you and take on
He,
like
no,
your
he
form?
took your flesh.
Yeah.
He
Your
stole
flesh,
your
yeah.
stole your skin.
Yeah. Was it
Yeah.
in the sequel where he throws a ninja star made of bones and a belly button, or is that in the
Probably.
first one? Because that's the thing that happens.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Was Jeepers Creepers a good movie?
Probably not. Going back to it, it's
probably
probably
not.
so fucking dumb.
It's probably not. I mean, but
I mean, what?
tone
it came
is
out in
right.
2004, 2003. That was more than 10 years ago.
Okay,
I was,
but the
I was
tone-
probably 10.
The tone is
So
right
scary.
because it starts by almost referencing Steven Spielberg's Duel. Like some of the
really?
shots of when he's chasing them in his truck are like taken from Duel, and I'm like,
Nice.
I respect that. Also, you guys should see Duel. But sorry, you were saying about It Follows.
Yes, because you wanted to talk about it, and
I do.
I know why you want to talk about it, and I think it's a great topic.
So why don't you do you want to start off?
No, you can go ahead.
So, I almost bought It Follows without having seen it, and for those of you who don't know, I mean, it was a pretty big talk. I mean, it was okay talked about. It got
it was
limited
made-
release.
made
At the
waves.
time,
It did really well for a limited release.
So the reason it was so I guess I don't want to say well regarded, but it was regarded in a way, was that it had such an interesting monster.
Yeah.
Basically,
yeah, essentially, it's something that
it was something new, something people hadn't actually done before.
yeah. So
But we'll
so
talk
the
about the execution of it.
the monster was essentially something that was invisible to all but who it was following.
Right.
It follows. And so how you get this monster is that you have sex with someone who the monster is following, and that monster starts following you. And if that monster catches you and kills you, it starts following the person who gave the monster to you. So a lot of people made the relationship to it of it being a sexually transmitted disease, whereas the director did talk about it being more about like the cycle of abuse sort of thing. That was something, but it's a really cool premise of this monster can't do anything but walk. Like
Yeah.
it's just, you can see it walks. at you. It walks towards you.
Does it kill you?
It kills you.
When it reaches you.
Yeah, when it reaches you. You find out later in the movie, which is kind of an issue with me, that it can affect the material world around it, which I didn't think it would be able to.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is where the execution of the idea starts to
It's
fall
just like-
apart.
Did they show the monster too much? Is that the thing? That what you think?
They did, but they didn't do it in the right capacity. It's a movie that's about being chased, and there's never a moment where I feel they really took it into like high gear. Like, could you imagine an idea? Think about a trip to a carnival. Like you're standing in the middle of a
This
midway.
is actually a scenario in the film, isn't it?
Nope.
Oh.
That's my problem with it.
That
You're
they don't
standing
go
in-
to a carnival.
That they don't go to a carnival.
That there's
You're
no
standing in the
clowns.
middle
Yeah.
of a midway, and you think about how many people are walking towards you. How many of those people might be looking directly at you when you're walking. You would never feel safe if this thing was following you and you had to go to a carnival.
Yeah.
But because they just never get to that point, they don't find a way to make it like really expose that. Like,
They don't really take risks in the film.
No, I
right?
don't
It's
think
a
so.
very safe kind of monster movie.
yeah.
It was a great idea that was executed kind of poorly.
The
and
first
sort of
act
just
is
a cash in.
the first act is fine. What happens afterwards? It's just like I don't care. Like, bring me more. I want to see you playing with the form instead of just being like, oh, it's still following. Oh, this person's like, oh, I'll have sex with you, so it follows me, and then I'll kill it or something. Like,
fuck.
it's very generic in that
Yeah.
way. When you're given something that we haven't seen before, and we can play around with a lot, and there are some great moments. There's some moments where it's like it's not there anymore until it's there again. It's really cool in that, but they didn't play around with it. And I think for a movie that is you're being followed by one thing, there's a lot of open space so you can see it following you, and that may be character decisions.
I just love the premise of that because have you guys ever read the comic book Black Hole?
No.
No, but I saw you researching it.
Yeah,
for a second
I couldn't
there.
remember I couldn't remember the writer's name. Charles Burns. Exact same concept. It's it's an STD that only people who have had sex can see. So, and only people who have it can see. And it's just exploring just how mean and brutal kids can get and how hypocritical they can get. And I always kind of viewed it as a horror, even though it's supposed to be like this social commentary drama. I always viewed it as a horror because it was just this creeping anxiety in everyone's thoughts, and it affected people and like tears kids apart in that. And I just think that's such a cool concept because, Birdie, we've had this conversation before. I think what I find so interesting about horror is there's fads, there's trends that follow whatever the big social anxiety of the time is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Black Hole was so important, and especially it's being set in high school, where like sex is this mysterious thing that you don't quite understand, and now you have this disease that you don't quite understand.
Yeah.
And it's just amped up to the next degree where like no one who hasn't done it understands, and you only have each other. And
Not to mention all the social anxieties that come with just being in high school.
Exactly, and
without
having
something like
having
that.
everyone see this disease that you have, and
Yeah.
like it's I don't know, it's just very anxious, and I think that's probably what it follows is trying to go for, is this like outlying this constant pursuit or like being seen all the time as something else because of this how you view.
But
yourself.
it has the potential, but it's not
It,
there.
it doesn't play with it.
It's
Yeah.
some of all the greatest horror films, in my opinion, are playing with these themes. The voyeuristic tendencies of Michael Myers in Halloween
Yeah.
is something
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
huge, and it was reflective of the time. It was reflective of. It did come out after the Manson stuff, right? No.
I don't know.
No. Yes.
When
I could check.
I was gonna say, when did it come out? Because was it also Cold War?
Yeah. No, it didn't come
No.
out during the. No, it was
No,
after the
not Cold War.
It was
Okay.
after the. It was 8. Yeah, it was after. It was after the Manson. It was after the Manson murders.
Okay, which also makes
So-
sense, right?
Yeah. So the idea of like, there's a lot of stuff that it's tapping into. It's not doing it like, hey, here's the Charles Manson character coming and chase you. It's the greatest stuff that happens in horror movies is the stuff that you're making the connections, right? Like you're looking for it. Whereas everyone immediately with it follows like, oh, it's an STD, where the directors come out and said it's not an STD, it's the cycle of abuse sort of thing. Like you are abused, and then you
pass the abuse
you're
on.
holding on to this thing that is going to kill, like it's going to kill you, and so you pass on the cycle.
Halloween did come out after the Manson
Yeah,
murders.
I thought so. I'm having a slow day. So
Hey,
but
no,
like
no sleep. Blair hasn't slept. He does that a lot.
yeah, but like you can see the voyeuristic tendencies and the fear of like being watched by that
Thing.
that shape.
The thing.
The Thing as well. The Thing has some great stuff. It's about paranoia of the Cold War. You had just said it.
Yep.
It's about the
That was paranoia.
that's the paranoia of the Cold War.
We watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is literally
Literally.
that's all it is.
That's the
about,
fear of communism in the 60s.
and then in the 70s, 50s,
50s, sorry. And then in the 70s.
and then in the 70s, the one with Donald Sutherland
My
adds
favorite one.
more body horror. There was a lot
Yeah.
more stuff going on with like physical grossness.
Yeah.
The Fly is a whole thing about like
The Fly came out in the 90s, right?
uh
Or late 80s?
late 80s.
Okay.
And so that's all about slowly die. Like he's slowly dying. Like Brundle is slowly dying, and the woman he loves is the woman who loves him as well as watching him die, watching this obsession take over. There's a lot of that. Like some of the greatest horror movies are about things, but aren't explicitly about things. It's not.
They're about the real fears of the time.
Yeah.
That's and I mean, going back to Unfriended, that was, I mean, what it was trying to say. I again
Cyberbullying.
not executed the greatest, but yeah, exactly. The whole thing starts because of a cyberbullying incident. That's one of the greatest things about horror films is that they just mirror what everybody's actually afraid of.
Well, and then there's the Nightmare himself. There's the Nightmare on Elm Street series. It's literally every single time. It's what do you fear? Okay, we can have our main horror character just physically take that form.
It plays with that too.
It plays with that.
So what was Jason's big thing? Was it just pure Oedipal stuff, or?
I think Jason was elements of that unstoppable force. There's naturally, because of it's a slasher film, it's the paying for one's transgressions. Like it's all about it plays into the whole killing teens who are having sex. Like there's the morality stuff there.
That was a big thing.
At
that time too. Anyways,
huge. And so Jason's mostly that.
Essentially, we should just always be afraid of having sex.
Yeah.
That's what horror movies
Is what horror movies are teaching us.
It's been so long since I've seen Friday the 13th. Was his thing? He drowned because like the lifeguard was off getting laid. In the
because
forest
they weren't
and,
paying
like,
attention.
Right?
So well, in the first Friday the 13th, it's actually his mother who's going around murdering everybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And so she's essentially being like, "Look what you did to my child."
That's a good movie then.
Yeah.
That's that's cool.
Yeah. Terrifying.
Yeah.
She also-
Haven't seen all of it.
She also
It's pretty
speaks
cool.
as Jason in it. Like there's
That's
that
really
segment
cool.
where she's coming up towards
I should go
the
watch
fire.
it.
Like she's coming
Yeah.
up to, and she's speaking to herself in Jason's voice. It's terrifying. It's great, and it's also tapping into the whole Psycho stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Psycho is another great thing.
Oh my God.
It's this idea of a dying America. In some ways, it's this idea of the dying morals of the great golden America. I can make that leap. I don't have to make that leap. I'm sure most people who see Psycho don't want to make that leap.
Yeah.
That's fine, but you can get that out of it. You can.
Well, because that's what's on your mind at the time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
whether or not you mean it to be that's just kind of what it is. That's what it reflects, because that's what was going on.
Yeah. Marion Crane is murdered because she steals money and has sex
flees the city.
when she's not married, sort of thing. Like it's incredible. It's I've read a lot of essays on horror films in which they just kind of like, all right, here's my agenda. I'm gonna pull it out. The worst I've ever seen that is Room 237.
Yeah,
If you guys have seen that, it is
We
the
talked about this a little bit
craziest.
a couple podcasts back.
In the Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, where it's like they have the guys who are like, oh, I'm a Holocaust historian. Obviously, the Holocaust historian is going to pull elements of the Holocaust out of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and that's what I like about horror when it's done correctly. Is you can find stuff and have a discussion.
You can add your
about
own
how
anxieties and
It's all different
interests to it. You
interpretations,
can
right?
pull it,
Yeah,
right?
based on everyone else's anxieties.
Like
your
there's stuff in. I know you love Alien, Brody. There's got to be
Yep.
stuff in Alien that you see that others don't. Others, or that like you identify that others might not identify with as much.
Well, here's the thing. Alien is one of my favorite films, but I mean, it is a horror film, but I don't watch it as a horror film. I watch it as a sci-fi before anything else.
But you cannot, because the horror elements are so strong, you cannot separate them, right?
No, of course.
In my
I mean,
mind,
I mean,
can't.
obviously, there's the claustrophobia
Yep.
and the
Isolation.
the inability to escape what
Mm-hmm.
is essentially out to kill you. And I mean, I look at Nightmare on Elm Street the same way.
Yep.
There's no escape from it
And
because
that
it's
is-
just always there.
Yeah.
That is the
You're going to
nowhere.
fall asleep. You're going to dream.
Exactly.
That's a great point, because that's like, to me, that's the biggest thing, and for a lot of people, it's the biggest thing in horror movies.
Yeah.
Is you have to contain. You
Yeah.
have to contain.
Well, and that's why I love The Thing so much too.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it's paranoia and claustrophobia.
Yeah.
That they're the least scariest things to me. So the horror films that touch on those things are the horror films that I love the most.
It's
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It's cool
Sorry.
that we talked about that you guys said Alien and The Thing, because I was thinking about how optimistic Alien is as a movie, because it's succeeding through, like, all odds are stacked against Ripley, right? Like, she's fucked. The unstoppable force is coming for her.
I wouldn't call it optimistic. It's desperate.
She prevails.
It's
desperate,
desperate. It's
but
all
she,
desperation.
But she prevails at the end, right? And like
but she's not optimistic
shouldn't-
through it.
But like,
no, she's not optimistic, but like overall, it's like you do it, and then the thing. It's been a while. That ends in just a blaze of not glory, right? Like,
I love
everything
the way the
burns.
thing ends, because essentially it's such a contained story that everything that's happened there could have all been for nothing.
Yeah,
Because you don't know by the end if Kurt Russell and help me with the other guy's name.
oh, I cannot remember it.
Anyways, you don't know if neither of them is part of the thing at this point, or both of them are, or if one of
Yeah.
them is. I love the way Carpenter left the ending so open that you were just like, what the fuck happens next?
yeah,
And like, even after the film is done, you're still paranoid because you don't know.
Yeah, and it's that sort of like, it's that whimper that ends, and like,
Yeah.
I find some of the best horror movies I've ever seen are the ones that it's like, oh, it's over, but you still had to see all of that.
yeah,
The characters still had to see all that. There's not a lot. That's why I love the ending to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like,
Right.
like it's literally just screaming, a car driving away, and just a chainsaw revving. And like, man, it's like, yeah, all of this stuff happened. All this stuff has consequence. All this stuff, and you can see the consequence in the characters. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre is another movie that is just so brutal.
yeah.
It's
That's
just-
kind of how I felt about The Hills Have Eyes too. Like the original Hills Have Eyes,
Yeah.
when it ended, I was just like, that's not good. Like, nothing is fixed,
Yeah.
which is why I called Alien optimistic, because it's not completely fixed. There's still xenomorphs out there.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we don't know that.
well,
Yeah,
We
no,
do
it's,
in Aliens.
It's but in like within Alien itself, it's contained.
Yeah.
But even the fact that we know there's an aliens,
yeah,
Right.
is an issue, because you remember Ripley is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
She's in a pod that has no long distance capability.
Yeah.
How much time had passed between Alien and
90
Aliens?
90 years.
90 years.
Jesus.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
there's that right there.
Yeah.
She's ancient.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
So her daughter is dead.
yep, her daughter is dead.
That's such a good subplot in Aliens. The whole
He
mother
cut-
thing.
Cameron cut a lot of it out in the well, it was a lot of it was cut out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Anyways, that's not a horror film. That's an action
but
film.
the fact
Aliens?
that
Yeah.
yeah,
the f-
best action film.
the fact that but there are some, the fact that aliens exist
You pulled a Zach.
Yep.
is a problem because we know that it's not the end for her,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
whereas were we not to get the sequels, we would have no idea what's
Well,
for her.
it's
Yeah,
funny
She's sitting there
because
paying
she's
attention.
stuck
Yeah,
drifting in
'cause-
space for the rest of her life.
Yeah, that's true. It's like
Or-
she prevailed, but for
to,
what?
To be alone
Yeah,
with an
did-
orange cat.
yeah,
I
which
mean,
is
she did go back and save him in the end, so I
is-
guess she really liked Jonesy.
which
Yeah.
is my problem with Halo fucking 4. Halo 3 ended with Master Chief floating in space, directionless. Like
right.
he's not getting back to Earth.
Right.
He's just like, wake me up when you need me. Here's the thing: the fight is over. We don't need Master Chief anymore. Whoa! What an ending!
hope
And then we wakes up, Chief. We need you. Fuck you. Fuck you. You stole that ending from Mr. Chief.
I'm
Money.
so, I'm surprised it took you so long to bring it back to video games. But actually, that was where I was going to go with it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we've had so much discussion about horror films, and we like talking about the elements of stuff that is like shown to you. You have no control over these characters. Whereas I think, and it's been so long since I've played indie horror games, but it's like having having these decisions and giving the person watching and playing it the decision is such an incredible tool.
Yeah.
That I'm hoping it becomes so mastered that it'll be like, oh, you have so many bad choices to make.
Yeah.
You have to make one of them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's exactly. It's like make the decision that you hope won't get you and everyone brutally murdered, or like I don't know. It's really cool.
yeah.
Even down to games that are more action based, like Left 4 Dead. There's an efficient way and there's an anxiety to it.
Oh,
because
I mean, every time you hear the witch
Yeah, you hear
you're
the
just
witch
like,
wail and
"Oh
you're just
my
like,
God,
fuck.
it's scary."
Yeah.
It gets your blood pumping.
It's good.
Well, even still,
It uses your adrenaline.
even still, like, you see things like interacting with video games, things that would be banal in a movie seem very like important. Like, I'm playing Fallout 4, and the mole rats come from underground now.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
is terrifying
Yeah.
to me.
That's cool.
It is this terrifying thing that I'm like, mole rats can strike at any time.
Mole rats.
I don't hear them huffing off in the distance, so I
Yeah.
can pick them off. But
my
they
God.
they and
Fucking mole rats.
but they come from underground now, and that's terrifying. I remember
You know what'll save you from that?
what
Pole vaulting.
I don't know what that is yet.
Tremors.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah, I saw. I was gonna mention Tremors. Tremors is great.
Things from coming
Tremors
from
is
underground.
fun. Tremors is fun.
Tremors is so fun.
You know what? A horror film that you and I like that not very many people like, Brody.
Uh-huh.
The Mist.
I
Okay.
love The Mist.
Here's the thing about The Mist. I love it because I really love good creature design. And
Oh,
God
right?
damn, do those creatures look good.
They
Yeah.
look good, and it doesn't show any of the big bad ones. It shows
Yeah.
one thing that wipes
It's-
them all out. It
it's-
shows a tentacle that goes through a guy,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Yeah.
the fuck
Yeah.
has that tentacle? What is attached
you
to
never
that?
know what that tentacle belongs to.
Yeah.
And then you
see
that-
massive
the
legs.
giant thing.
Yeah.
Well, it does cut up to
Have
it
a
a little
body.
bit.
It
has
But
a body,
You
yeah.
see the body and you see tendrils coming off of
And
it
you're like,
stuff.
this is
and
in
you're
our
like,
world
You're
now.
like, holy fuck,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do? Like,
It's so good at instilling like that moment is the turning point, right? That's it's right at
Hopelessness.
the end.
Yeah.
They're like, we did it. We're out. We're like out in the world. We're gonna survive. Like we're doing this.
yep. Oh,
And
but
then you see
see
that,
that
and you're
thing?
like,
well, no.
how many bullets are in that
Oh.
gun?
You
Great.
see that after their car runs out of gas.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Yeah. So they're already like settling into the despair and hopelessness, and
Yeah,
then they
it's
see
like-
that and they're like, this is the end.
Yeah, they're
And
like
that's
yeah.
when he starts checking how many bullets are in the gun.
Oh,
And
it's
my
so
God,
good.
what a good
the
ending.
ending.
And
What
you know,
an
we
ending.
talked about it. It's like we're like, the movie's okay. Like
It
the
was-
movie, like the
the
book
movie
is
itself
okay.
is,
I read
yeah,
the
pretty, eh.
novella before we watched it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But that ending is, and it's not the same ending as the book.
No.
Like Darabont
Stephen
changed.
King. Stephen King came out and said he
Yeah.
liked that ending
that,
better
yeah,
than his.
yeah, which
And
is
it-
rare for Stephen King.
Yeah.
well, it took him how many years before he's like, oh yeah, Stanley Kubrick's Shining is
the,
so
the
good.
Shining is pretty damn good.
He was coked out and stubborn though when he was like getting mad
I
at all
didn't
of
write
the
this.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
exactly.
write this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that ending is incredible, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's another thing. I find that the first two acts of horror movies can be really great. for the most part, they have a terrible
They're
last act.
they're
They
not
have
very
such
good
a
at
bad
acting.
last act.
Yeah.
That was the coolest thing about The Mist is you're watching it and you're like, okay, this is a whatever
Yeah,
horror movie,
they're-
and then it ends.
They're
and you're just like,
escaping. They're
what?
escaping. Oh
Yeah.
fuck.
Because it's like so many horror movies are like really spooky in the first act, and
Yeah.
then just kind of feel like
They start to
spark out,
fill it in the second act, and then the third act they have to wrap it up, which
Yeah.
is essentially either like somebody escaping, them killing the monster, or nobody escaping.
yeah, it
It's
starts
kind
high
of-
and then
kind
ramps
of
down.
predictable.
Whereas like The Mist started low and kind of ramped up.
I feel like such an asshole talking about horror films like this because I've seen like maybe 20 less than that in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can talk about horror literature and video games some more.
Yeah.
Well,
The answer is horror is so hard to do in literature.
it's very hard to do in literature. It's like you're either spending time going, I don't know what it was. It was ghostly. Like
Yeah.
actually, have you read Hell House?
Yeah,
Hell House is
I've
really,
heard of it. I haven't
Hell
read
House
it.
is such a good, and I'm very skeptical of horror literature. Hell House is a really good version.
It's
It's
like-
just so good.
To beat the crap out of a dead horse. It's just like Lovecraft's the most successful I've even seen it, and Lovecraft's not even horrifying, like scary.
It's not.
in the
It's
right
just.
sense.
It's eerie.
It's
eerie,
Eerie.
It
It's-
knows how to
I
tap
can,
into.
I can read Lovecraft and feel comfortable.
It does what horror films do, where it like gets in your head in some way. Like Brody, the reason we suck at horror is not watching the movie. It's after
It's
the movie.
after the movie. We
And it's
let
your own-
things get in our head. Like I still have nights where I'm going to bed. I'm like, fuck. And that girl from The Ring was pretty scary.
and that's what's cool about Lovecraft is Lovecraft writes in a purposely alienating way that makes you think and reflect on it a lot more.
Yeah.
And you're just like, why? Like this is hard. I have to reread this. This is difficult to understand. And then like you read it and you think about it more, and your brain starts to fill in the gaps because you can't stop thinking about it because it was written in such a hard to access way. And then you're just like, great, I'm staring into the blackness and Cthulhu is staring back.
Well, see, yeah, like the most terrifying thing about Lovecraft is trying to understand
Infinite.
Yeah. Like the things that we are literally incapable of understanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts on horror, I guess. I'm still terrified of it, but I like some parts of it. Some of my favorite films are horror films, which makes no sense. But yeah.
I think you need it. I think if people want to do a great film, it's got to have a great horror film. It's got to have a great ending. Like consistently,
Has the ending to The Witch.
the witch ends incredibly. Like
Perfect.
it's one of those things where you're like, that wasn't the outcome I hoped.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the end because even in literature, even like with Lovecraft, when it ends, it just ends on like it's a weakness. His biggest strength is his weakness because like it just kind of ends, and you're just like, You just kind of put the book down, and you're just like, I guess the old god came back, maybe.
Well,
And
it ends
it's
to let
just
you
like-
stew on it, right?
Yeah,
Like you were
yeah.
saying.
I think
But like I don't know, I feel like it should build to something, and that's just Lovecraft is so caught up in being about nothing that it's I don't know. It
I
just
think-
kind of peters out, I think, in the end.
I think to summarize, I think the ending has to have consequence. I think
Yeah.
absolutely, like all the slashers we see that we're like, oh, that wasn't very good. It's because we don't care. Like at the end of it, you watch the Final Destination films, you're shown that either these people are idiots or absolute assholes.
Yeah, not to mention everyone that's dying.
and,
Just
and
deserves to die,
and,
essentially.
and by the end of it, you're like, okay, so like there has to be consequence, even
Yeah.
if it's a good ending or it's a bad ending. You take the ending to Psycho, everything like the case is solved, the murders behind bars. Yet there's consequence. The consequence is sitting there, sitting right in front of you.
Well, even
yeah.
even though it's not a horror movie, but Silence of the Lambs does that really well.
Silence of the
Silence of the
Lambs
Lambs
is a horror.
Is
film.
it horror?
Oh, yeah.
I thought of
Yeah.
it more
Oh,
as
yeah.
like thriller, like suspense.
Well, you got to
but,
remember, there's a lot of people that think serial killers are also horror.
Yeah, it's
it
true.
doesn't have to
It's
be
just
a paranormal.
it's just
They
so
are,
cool
yeah.
because the killer is caught and like game over, but there was a
but
consequence.
the ultimate villain is still
the
out
biggest
there.
villain
Yeah.
just escaped.
Yeah.
The reason he escaped is he got his opportunity to escape because we needed him to catch this guy.
catch this
So,
other guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there is definite consequence
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
Clarice Starling
exactly.
and
Yeah.
Chilton.
What? Bye.
I
I don't want to do
Okay,
it.
You know,
cool.
well,
I'm nervous.
we're done. We're done doing it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sign off. Fuck that sign off.